Good evening and welcome to the Hendrick Hudson Board of Education meeting. Today is Wednesday, March 13th, 2019. Can we please stand up and pledge allegiance to the flag?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, our first order of business is to get our agenda in order. Can I please have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Can I please have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Second. All right. Our first order of business is to recognize a BOCES student of distinction, Erica Fenelon. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly.
Erica Andre.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, so I'm going to invite up our friends from BOCES, Mr. Lowry, who's one of the administrators on the campus, and it's hard to talk about BOCES without talking about his counterpart, John McCarthy, and John McCarthy is here as well, one of our good friends and supporters of our district and board. So Mr. Lowry, I'll let you take it.
Thank you. Okay, I really appreciate it. Good evening to the Board of Education. Thanks so much for having us here. We have an amazing young lady that I'm going to tell you a little bit about, Erica Andre, but I'd like to bring up Erica and her teachers as well, Miss Murphy and Miss Farlow. They're going to be get to embarrass Erica and just really go on and how wonderful, how great she is. But Erica was with us for 2 years. She really kind of lit us last year to say, wow, what an amazing young lady. And she applied herself, and this year she was accepted into our New Visions Health program, which is a very unique program. It's done both at the BOCES campus, and it's also done part-time in the hospitals as well. So Erica is at Hudson Valley Hospital for 2 days a week, doing clinical rotations, getting to see the medical field in action. She's earning college credits while she's here. She's maintaining a very high average. And this year, I'm proud to say that she is the president of Skills USA, which is our leadership organization at the Tech Center. And like I was saying, our Skills USA, previous to Erica, had got complacent. And Erica came in here and really took it by storm. We're doing things we've never done before, and it's all thanks to Erica's leadership. So if I can kind of conclude with this remark, is that Erica plans on going into the medical field. And she has the definite skills, compassion, that, you know, I would be proud to be her first patient if she goes to be a doctor, her and her brother as well, because this young lady is very special and she's definitely going to go far in life. And if you haven't had the opportunity to get to know Erica, really do so before she graduates, because she really is a special, amazing young lady. So really give her a big round of applause.
Erica, I just want to say again, I apologize. I don't know why. On one of my board minutes, it has the wrong name, and on the other one, it has the correct name. So I so apologize for incorrectly saying your name. But regardless, I would like to thank you for all of your hard work, because evidently to achieve this accolades that you evidently achieved with tonight takes a lot of hard work and effort. So thank you on behalf of our Board of Education. We couldn't be more proud. Thank you.
We have a medal, very special medal, recognizing her as a student of distinction, and a certificate of achievement as well. So. Thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to tell a little bit about Erica. She is a really special young lady, and thank you for allowing her to come to BOCES.
It's an outstanding, BOCES is such a great partner and provides such outstanding programs. for kids and able to provide regional opportunities. We're honored to have you as a partner, and Erica, you've done a great job representing our district and continue to do so. Congratulations. Now go home and get your homework done. Party's
Lots
over.
of it.
Thank you.
Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you.
I think I better stick with this agenda, it seems like the correct one. Next, we have our donations. If I can find them. Right, I am discombobulated tonight. Okay, our first one is a donation totaling $740 for the Hendrick Hudson School District, and that's a matching donation from New York Life. We thank the person who donated, and again, the Hendrick Hudson School District definitely appreciates your generosity. Our next one is to approve a donation from the Bank of America for Blue Mountain Middle School and to increase the budget $16. Again, that's a matching donation, and we thank you again for that funding. Can I please have a motion to approve the donations? Second, okay. All in favor? Thank you. All right, now we're up to our first audience comments on non-agenda items. The Hendrick Hudson Board of Education welcomes public comments at this portion of the meeting. To maintain an orderly and efficient meeting, the board has established the following guidelines for those who wish to address our Board of Education. Each speaker will be permitted 3 minutes for their comments and must be recognized by the board clerk. All comments must be directed toward the board. The board will listen to comments and input, but will not necessarily debate or discuss any items. Operational matters will be directed to school administrators for their handling. The board is not permitted to address personnel or individual student matters in open session. The board will limit repetitive comments in order to give time to others wishing to speak, as well as maintaining an efficient board meeting. With that being said, we now are up to, I believe, the superintendent's report.
Yes. Yes, we are. I'm going to try to keep my comments short. We have our friends from the Hendrick Hudson Free
Yes,
Library
we do.
here, as well as 2 presentations that Margaret and Laura will lead. But a couple updates. If you look to the back of the room, you will see 2 chairs. You'll see a blue chair and a maroon chair. And those are samples from a most recent capital project planning meeting that we had with our architects. So we have now officially entered phase 2. Phase 2 is the planning and design phase of our capital project, and those chairs will not be in classrooms. Those are samples for the middle school and high school auditorium renovations. So
Oh, wonderful.
those are 2 artifacts that we are working, and we're pushing our timeline to make sure that we can meet the community's expectation of us breaking ground on these very, very important projects. So phase 2 of the capital project is up and running. As they get closer to rendering some drawings and some options, we'll have them back here at the board. We'll reconvene first our facilities meeting and then have some public discussions. So that's a really great thing that that's up and running. It is officially spring, I guess, so our spring sports have begun, even though you won't see too many kids outside except the track team, poor guys and girls. So spring sports have started, as well as the beginning of our spring musical tour began actually last night at the middle school with Select Choir. STEM Day. Buchanan Verplank Elementary School had their first STEM Day today, partnering with the biomedical program at the high school. So a number of students came down and worked with kids in classrooms and small groups on all sorts of really creative and crafty biomed science projects. So we have a couple more pictures and videos we're going to post. We have a shared Google Doc where the kids are commenting on their experience and giving quotes, and the teacher, Janine Hall, who you have heard of recently, Teacher of the Year, New York State, Project Lead the Way Teacher of the Year. So that was a really interesting event at BV. It's hard because if you ever have been to Frank G or know much about Frank G, it's easy to get high school kids there. They can walk. They can go during lunch, they can go during the study hall, they can be there after school. We're trying to make sure that our kids in Furnace Woods and BV have access, and that our high school kids have access to those elementary kids and programs, so that we can begin some mentoring opportunities, or like today, BV STEM Day. So that will continue tomorrow. Fifth graders will have an opportunity through a generous partnership with Regeneron. Speaking of one of our elementary schools, BV, will go to Furnace Woods. Today, Furnace Woods graduated about 51 fifth graders. They had their DARE graduation. So I was there. Lisa was there with two hats on. She had mom hat and board hat. So that was always a nice opportunity. And we want to thank the town of Cortland and Linda Puglisi for providing funding for DARE. It's an important conversation that we have, an important partnership with our community police agencies. In this case, the Buchanan Village Police, but at Furnace Woods we partner with the Peekskill City Police. And my last update is the Cessation Fund. The Cessation Fund is a funding stream that resides in Albany, and it's money that we will be relying on and that will be eligible for when Indian Point starts their closure process. As the Senate and Assembly and Governor go through the throes of budget negotiations, the Governor proposed a $10 million reoccurring funding stream to the Cessation Fund in his executive portion of the budget. The Senate late last night came out with their one-house budget resolution, which calls for a $24 million increase to that fund. So that's a good starting point. We know that we have the attention of the Governor and his team, and that in the last 2 years alone we've increased the Cessation Fund by $35 million. So that's very important. And lastly, the last piece of our state update is the Tax Stabilization Reserve. Back in 2017, as part of the Indian Point shutdown approval, the Governor enacted the opportunity for our community to create Tax Stabilization Reserve with some very specific parameters and rules around that. We have taken now a good chunk of time, about a year and a half, looking at that, and we are being advised to not put that up for approval yet. Some of the specific language of how money is deposited or withdrawn is very cumbersome and does not work in our favor, as well as also the self-imposed cap that we would have to put on that reserve will not only be very confusing, but it's hard to forecast what that cap should be. So we know that we're not going to be eligible for cessation funds until 2023, so the reserve really doesn't need to be in use until then. So we talked about it as a board about adding it to the budget vote in late May, but our recommendation is to hold off on that until we learn more about it or until we execute some changes in the statute. So if that happens, we'll keep everyone informed, but right now it's not going to be a part of our budget.
Okay. Next, we are going to move to the Hendrick Hudson Free Library budget presentation.
So this is our annual discussion with our friends from the Free Library. Their budget resolution appears on our ballot for voters to approve at the end of May this year. So we have our friends from the library who are going to talk about the budget and the process.
President Pedersen, Mr. Hopwriter, and members of the board and administration. My name is Cynthia Neck. I am president of the Board of Trustees for the Hendrick Hudson Free Library. I am here tonight with Library Director Jill Bilbis, Jim Colasar, our business manager, and trustee Bill Brandon. I am here to present the proposed library budget for fiscal 2019-2020 and request that it be included as a proposal on the ballot presented to the public on May 21st, 2019. The library's proposed 2019-2020 budget reflects a 5.2% levy increase, which is a 4.4 budget-to-budget increase. This represents approximately a $52,500 increase over last year. The average taxpayer in the town of Cortland will see an annual increase of $6.64 per thousand of assessed value, and Peekskill taxpayers will see an annual decrease of $1 per thousand assessed value. For the average taxpayer living in the town of Cortland, this means library services will cost approximately $196 per year, and in Peekskill, that number will be $98. How does the Hendrick Hudson Free Library benefit you and the community? Well, in 2018, the Hendrick Hudson Free Library circulated over 188,000 items, of which nearly 20% were electronic books and streaming services. Nearly 90,000 patrons came to our doors. Our 4 wireless hotspots were loaned out continuously. Our study rooms were used by over 6,500 patrons, and we offered over 700 programs with nearly 12,000 attendees. Students from DV and Frenchie Lindsay visited the library. We hosted the district art show in April, and last summer, our own Miss Terry and Miss Melanie offered programs at the district's summer camp. This summer, the library will be housing this camp, so that the district can make needed upgrades to its buildings without having to cancel this important program. Children have been, and always will be, a vital part to furthering the mission of the library. In fact, one of our former board and community members, Ellen Roth, and her husband Merrill, are passionate about the library. Last October, we were honored to name our new energy-efficient children's room in memory of Leonora Roth. But children weren't the only ones having fun. Some unique programming was happening for adults as well. One of our more popular recurring programs is the Cookbook Club, led by librarian Sherry Moriali. Using a pre-selected cookbook, participants discuss the selection while dining on delicious foods prepared by the members. But if you're not into cooking, you can attend our Brews and Bestsellers, where you will meet librarian Elise Landisberg at local eateries and discuss a book over food and drink. In June of 2018, the library became an official passport acceptance agency, and from June to December accepted over 140 passport applications, many of whom are Hendrick Hudson students traveling abroad, including myself as a student. They processed my application, and they did 7 today. 7 today. So the library continues to be a leader in the state for our progressive, sustainable initiatives. Hendrick Hudson Free Library will be recognized this November as the first library in the state to complete New York State Library's Sustainable Library Certification Program, having not only met the goals of environmental sustainability, but also rigorous social and financial benchmarks. The board's goal is to provide the same level of services and programs to our community, and we feel that this budget reflects our commitment to that goal. So thank you for the opportunity to be here to present the library's proposed budget to be included on the May 21st, 2019 ballot. And I urge you to come and see how the library has changed and stay for all that we have to offer. So thank you.
Thank you. I would just like to say on behalf of our Board of Education and our entire school district how much we so appreciate all of the programs that the library has afforded our students and the adults, the community members, and you really have made it a hub of the entire community. And for that, we thank you very, very much. So,
It's a pretty special place.
can I now have a motion to add the proposed library budget to our ballot in May? Second? All in favor? Thank you. Now we are moving to our budget presentation on technology.
Okay, so Laura Nyer is going to walk us through the budget priorities as well as some of the line items as we wrap up our preparation for the 2019-2020 fiscal year.
You're demoing the demo, and you're giving us a live demo.
I don't even know where to move my seat.
Take my chair.
The other side, Barbara.
Okay.
No, sorry.
Here.
No, I'm fine.
So as you can, hello everybody. As you can see, we have our traditional projector screen set up, but as you heard me talk about some of the things we've been trying to work on and some of the technology that's been happening in the district is that we have smart panels that some of our teachers this year, we have 10 smart panels in the district that they have been utilizing in all 5 of the buildings. This is a demo smart panel. This is not a stand that we currently use. This is the only way to make it mobile. Our smart panels in our classrooms are mounted the way a smart board would be mounted. I currently am connected to it wirelessly. That is not connected to any computer. It is its own computer in itself. So it's got its own operating system inside of it, and I kind of say it's almost like its own iPad or tablet. Teachers can, log right into it, access everything they need through the web through that. But we've only had it for a couple of days, and I'm still learning it. So we are going to demo the demo, and I'm going to guide us through using my iPad as we scroll through the slides. And if we mess up, then we're going to go back to old school. Okay, so budget goals. So, it's been an interesting process when taking over this position, and really I spent a lot of time really learning what the budget was and everything that we have. I had the opportunity to work closely with Enrique, speak with both Lisa and Margaret about the programs that we offer, the software that we have, with my tech team to see, what is needed. I worked with Anthony Merlini, really looking over everything that we've used in the district, why we use it, trying to talk to teachers, trying to talk to students about all of that. So in a lot of this process, we're trying to make sure that we continue the one-to-one model that we've gone to. Really create that mobile learning initiatives that have happened in both BV and both at Furnace Woods. Really trying to cut costs where we need to, but at the same time spend the money where we need to. Really, utilizing our technology in an effective way. Whether that be training for our teachers, training for our students, training for myself as we're demoing this board, but really trying to learn and utilizing a lot of people in the region and talking to people, finding out what best practices are, what people are using, and try to make these smart choices. So this is our 5-year plan. So every 5 years, every building has a different upgrade. So as we said, Furnace Woods and BV had their one-to-one initiative that took place the past 2 years. BV has been doing very well with their one-to-one. They've been very excited about everything that's been happening. Usually, if you can see some of my tweets that I put out, it's usually students, the excitement of students in these buildings, in the classrooms, and the teachers that are utilizing it. Frank G. Lindsay is next in line for this, so we're currently in the process of identifying what kind of technology that is going to best fit them, working with the principal, surveying the teachers, and really trying to see, what's going to work. And then we have the following year Blue Mountain, and then the high school, and as well as the district office. So you're going to see in the budget overview that the numbers are a little bit off kilter at different places, but you'll see that it's only about, under $100,000 difference in a total budget of 2.9% change. One of the things that I did, and again, I had the help of, like I said, a lot of people in this room, Enrique, a lot of the people up in the district office, is really trying to identify what was purchased, under what codes, how was it done, really trying to make sure that we identify everything where it really needs to be. So we took a really big inventory and then really tried to identify for future, really making sure that things match up where they need to go. So I'll go down into a little bit more detail as we go through. So one of the things that we have hardware. So as you see, this is a picture of Anthony Merlini, Buildings and Grounds, and one of Lorenzo, one of our members from the EduTech team, looking at the server at BV, trying to make sure that it's ventilated properly, things are working. So that's an example of an item that we need to make sure that we have the switches, we have the servers, we have everything we have to work properly. That includes maybe the AC units. We're always trying to make sure that we're monitoring these rooms to make sure that there's not overheating. At the same time, we have things on release, but something could go wrong. We need to have emergency funds just in case. This is what controls all of the information across the district. So we have a main one at the high school, at the middle school, then each building has a smaller one and one here as well. So making sure that everything really is connected and working. Project Lead the Way. We've heard great things over the past few months about what Project Lead the Way does. They do need a lot of equipment. So I've been working with the high school, identifying specifically what they do need. A lot of the students are using Chromebooks, but in Project Lead the Way, they have more specific requirements and specs that are needed for, say, for a specific type of laptop to really utilize the high-tech learning that they're doing. So that's included in some of this hardware. When we think about contractual, there are a lot of vendors, a lot of people that we work with. One thing you'll see in the top right is our website. So that's Blackboard. That's something we have to pay for annually, that we have to make sure that is up and running. It's our main way of communicating to the community everything that is happening. We have Infinite Campus. So when you guys get those lovely phone calls from me saying, good morning, this is Laura Nyer, or good evening for a delay, we're using Infinite Campus. So Infinite Campus is not only our data system where we have report cards, teachers are putting their grades in the system, everything, all of our information and data that we use throughout the district. That's one of the many things that Infinite Campus does. So we have just accessing the web. We have to pay for our usage of the web. And one thing that we're doing this year is creating a redundancy so that if something happened, if a storm happened, a tree went down and cut down some lines, we have redundancy so that we will not go off the network. Cisco helps us with our phones. We have warranties on a lot of the equipment that we have to make sure that if something does happen, we do not have to go out of pocket and buy something brand new. They are monitoring that and having warranty systems. We have cable. EduTech is, again, the guys that we see all the time. So here's our lovely EduTech team. These guys have been a new team for us this year. So that is Lorenzo, Eric, and Steve on the left. That's our threesome. So they are known throughout the building. If you have students in the buildings, they know who their tech guy is. They'll be, hi Steve, hi Eric. The teachers rely on them daily. So we have help desk tickets put in there. 2,782 help desk tickets have been addressed since the beginning of the school year. So it could be something as simple as the printer's not working, they're having issues with a smart board, they're trying to figure out how to make something work with their computer, they're logged out of their system. They are there to help, and so they are each assigned to different buildings. So we have Steve is assigned, he sort of oversees everybody, he's assigned to Frank G. Lindsay in the district office. He's making sure that all the important data financially and things are working here in this building. Eric is at BV and Eric is at Furnace Woods and the middle school, and Lorenzo is at BV and the high school. They do help each other out, they work together very collaboratively as a team. They're irreplaceable. They're great guys, and they have a management system that works above them that really supports us and provides help when we need it.
And I just want to jump in. When we buy the EduTech service, they're the bodies, they're the hands, working with us. But we purchase the service on the back end. So something happens on the weekend, something happens at 10 o'clock at night. They have a team of people that can be deployed if it's not these three. So it's not a 9 to 5 group that we go home at the end of the day and cross our fingers and hope nothing bad happens because we can't address it till they come in the next day. It's 24/7.
Yeah, and they don't follow the school schedule, so they are corporate. So, for example, I think I had mentioned at the last meeting that during the February break we had some things happening in the buildings. These guys were here. They were, working with Meteor Education, taking them around, looking at the furniture audit, looking at the smart boards. They are here at all times. If the building is open, they are here. If the building's not open, they are working remotely. So they are constantly working. They have alternating schedules to make sure there's coverage. You know, Steve will be texting me in the evening to let me know if there's something's going on. So it's really nice that they're always available when we need them to be available and really flexible.
Laura, I just have a very quick question. Do we keep the same people year after year, or does it change? Because we are buying the service, not the people.
Yes, so we are buying the service, and the team can change, and it has changed. This is actually a brand new team.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
thought.
So ideally, the goal is that this team's going to stay put for a while, but what we do is, so for example, today I met with their manager and really to evaluate and identify what our needs are as a school district, and then EduTech will make sure that we have the right people to fit our needs and what we could do. We could hire them for additional services at times, whether it's an installation of something or smaller projects we can outsource to them, but really they can rotate. EduTech is a company that really tries to promote within and keep their guys, and so we have lost a few of their members of our team, but it's because they've been promoted from within. The plan though is that these guys are not going anywhere. Told them they're not allowed to leave. But no, they just really all started us. So Eric, who's in the middle, began in the middle of last school year. Lorenzo came probably just about when I started in October, and Steve started late in the summer. So they've been really working on their, collaboration and working as a team together, and then working with me as a team. We meet on a regular basis every week where we're updating things. So the goal is to keep them together. But if we needed somebody else or something didn't fit, we are buying the service.
And we could add people if
Yep.
it was needed.
Yep.
Okay.
One example is when we talked about the library, Jill left, but Jill has been looking to support us with a grant to hook up some Wi-Fi out by the football field. So Jill came over, met with Mario, who's one of the higher ups at EduTech, and Steve and Anthony Merlini. We toured the site to figure out what kind of work we can get done. So it's really, like, they have a lot of things that we can get from them as needed. If we needed more, we needed less, we can move it around.
Do these guys also participate in our safety training and meetings for the buildings? For like
They do not.
lockouts, those kinds of things?
They do know what those are, but they don't, so if we are in a lockout, they're gonna participate, they're not gonna be wandering. But they're not, they're not part of faculty meetings or anything like that, but that's actually not a bad idea to think about. Software. Software is a big part of our budget. A lot of what we do with, a lot of curriculum instruction is connected to the software. Anything that is, students have their hands on and they're working on. And also we have, Lightspeed and GoGuardian, some of these things are making sure that students are safe on the internet, safe in their classrooms. So here's a little bit of a sampling of much of the software that we use. So iReady we use in collaboration. It used to be and Margaret could probably speak a little more detail about this, but it used to be something that we did just for specific students, and now it's K through 12, typing PalRaz kids. We use Frontline right now for IEPs, IEP Direct, but we're going to be adding some services for evaluation and RTI. Basic things like Microsoft Office that some we might just take for granted. These are important things that we have to pay for every year. Same thing as Adobe. Adobe Suites is a big thing. They just changed the licensing structure. It's all cloud-based now. It's no longer device-based. So when we renewed this year, we really had to change how we manage that per user and not per device to try to do the best cost savings as possible, but make sure all people that needed it get it, and that's staff and students.
So you have to update which students every time they change an elective for one of the classes, or?
So in the middle school, for example, where students might go into art and design on a rotating basis, those rosters need to be updated to link them to the software. Otherwise, we'd be paying a lot of money for a lot of students that aren't using it at all times, but the student then gets a specific license and can use it at home and at school. And the teachers have it as well. And it's little things, just wanting to create a PDF, save something to PDF file, we need to have that Adobe. So this is just some, interesting fun photos of just kids working on this. So you walk, this is, I believe it was at BV, walking into classrooms in the library, seeing kids working collaboratively, sometimes 2 students on a Chromebook in the library. The second picture is students actually using iReady in their classroom while the teacher's conferencing in the background. One thing that's been pretty cool this year is that students no longer need the librarian to manually check them out. They are scanning it themselves. The picture of the little girl on the right is scanning the book herself, which is teaching them some empowerment. When we talk about Adobe, we think about, like we said, like the PDF and all that kind of stuff, but I was lucky enough at the middle school to share with me some of the work that their students have produced using the Adobe software. They rely heavily on that in the arts programs in middle school and high school. So these are some, I took Enrique's cue here and put some of our beautiful artwork from our students. I'll give you a few seconds to enjoy. A big area that we've been talking about is the whole STEM, STEAM idea. This is a picture of Megan Boyle, who's been working as a librarian in the elementary schools. This is Ozabots happening. A lot of people get to see some of the things about Ozabots, which is really teaching kids a lot of the basics about coding. On the bottom left, you'll see those are different apps. So one thing that we're doing right now is we're piloting in the library is the use of iPads. The Apple products have a lot of free apps that kids are able to really get the basics of coding, and they have them K2, 3, 5, and you can keep going up in grade level. So we've really been exploring and kind of seeing how that works. It's been a lot of fun. Kids are having fun to use these programs, and the apps themselves are completely free, so it's $0 in the budget. And finally, the nitty-gritty supplies. So someone always needs a keyboard or a mouse or a cable. I can't figure out how to charge my laptop, or where's this cable? Just recently we were able to get headphones for the middle school so kids can work independently while in the class on their Chromebooks. So anything that we need, from office supplies to repair parts, all those basic things fall under the supply area. And our lease, so this is some of the things when we talk about the 5-year plan, where we want to go next year with Frank G. is looking at Smart Panel, which is what we're viewing right now, printers and scanners and tablets and iPads and desktops and PCs and laptops and Chromebooks. So trying to make the decision about what we really need, how to make things last. One interesting thing is traditionally teachers have had the desktop, like what you can see connected over there to the projector, but we're finding that there's a lot more laptops that are a little bit more affordable, that are even sort of like half Chrome, half laptop. So teachers can use that as their teacher computer, but then move away, not be tethered to the smartboard, and do work, whether independently or collaboratively, and then plug back into the smartboard. Or if you're using a Smart Panel, you don't even need to be plugged in. So that's, again, in the process right now of trying to identify exactly what we need. And this is just some quotes from people who are using the Smart Panel. So we talked about Janine Hall. She gets a lot of press lately. So she's one of the teachers. She's a tech coach, so she's also one of the teachers who has a Smart Panel this year. One of the things she was saying she loves about it is she shares her room, and she teaches a lot of different courses, so she's running around all the time. So she's able to have everything prepped and ready to go. Doesn't need everything to log on. And something as simple as the whiteboard. So if you think about a tablet you're using, you can keep, just swiping and swiping. So she has students who are able to collaboratively write on the whiteboard and work together and just keep moving the screen and not be confined to just the rectangle that's there for them. Teachers can cast out. So what I'm doing right now is I am casting to the Smart Panel. But a teacher can also cast from the panel out to student devices. So if I'm a student and I'm working collaboratively with someone and we want to share what we've done, we can just do what I'm doing right now, which is share my screen with the monitor. Teacher has control over that. So there's a lot of cool potential about what can get done. And the teacher, so that's Mrs. Fanning in first grade. She has her kids using one-to-one Chromebooks, and she is casting out. So if you see this next picture, there are students who are in individual places. We talked about active learning, which is we know is important for students, and she's talking about how even the most distracted student is now becoming engaged because they're able to sit where they want to sit, work with where they need to work. The teacher's able to move around the room, and she's able to push out a lot of information to them instead of them all having to kind of squish in and be in line inside of the board. So we're actually getting a full day of training on Monday well, half day for elementary, half day for secondary, to really, you know, reflect on the work that they've done and what they've already learned with the smart panels, and share best practices and see what else we can do. So that's really informing a lot of decisions as we move forward. We can't forget about our staff. So my thing's not working. So this was recently, we had teaching assistants that were getting trained using Google Suites. The top right corner, you can see these are our secretarial staff. It's really important that we as a district have really embraced Google and using the technology. So we want to make sure that those are who's supporting us in all of our positions, are also doing that. And they're being taught by Colleen Ruiz, one of our trainers. And the bottom right is a training session that's offered through the purchase of the panels from the company Tech with some of our tech coaches on the bottom right.
We're continuing with the tech coaches, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So any questions or thoughts, considerations as we,
I just wanted to clarify, so it's not so much that the software costs are going up 60% next year and supplies are going down 66% next year, it's that the allocations and we were putting those with the budget codes have changed?
Yeah.
Is that right?
You see how I was able to scroll right from that slide to the other one?
Very nice.
When I walked in and observed at BV, I was just so amazed at how the children just go and the little first graders take their little Chromebooks, log in, and do what they have to do. And they're in small groups all doing different things, and it's very impressive to see how well trained and involved the kids are, and I find it incredible. And just, knowing from what my grandson's doing, give him any kind of technology, and he's totally engaged.
And what's interesting is, I was talking to some of the teachers, it's not as if these kids are on the computer all day long.
No, it isn't.
They're very purposeful. And so I know as a parent of children in elementary school, I'm always thoughtful of how much screen time my children have. And so they are still breaking away using pen and paper. We are not, that is still technology. A pen and a pencil is technology. They are still utilizing all these aspects, and when necessary, using the technology of a Chromebook or an iPad, things like that. And it's monitored and managed, and that's what's really important, the work that they're doing.
No, but I think that's the nice part,
Yeah.
is that you see kids who are, working with the teacher and doing pencil and paper things, and then you see a group that's actually up at the smart board and they're actually conducting their lesson at the smart board, and then you see another group that's reading books and another group that's working on their assignments on their little Chromebooks. So it's just great to see. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? We're fine.
Lisa, do you?
Well, I was looking at the Frank G. Lindsay hardware, with how it was under review. I was wondering if you can give us some examples of the types of things you're thinking of using there?
Sure. So one thing we're thinking about, and I'm a little going out of what we've done in the past, is looking to bring more iPads into the lower levels. So a lot of feedback has been that the little ones don't, even with the Chromebooks that they have, they're touch Chromebooks, but they don't really use the keyboard right now. They kind of peck at it to log in. Some people have challenges logging in with the Chromebook, so we're looking to see potentially maybe bringing iPads into those lower levels. The price is the same at this point for Chromebook and iPads, and everything works together. So like with this smart panel, it used to be you had to be all Apple, you had to be all PC. Now everything gets along. So if I'm on a Chromebook right now, I can use this screen. If I'm on my iPad, I can use this screen. We can all communicate together. So I've been speaking with teachers to see what they think, what they like. It's funny, some teachers already have their own iPads that they bring in because they really like the way they work. Some people really love the Chromebook. So it's just really been a conversation with the principal and the teachers. I just recently sent a survey out to them to really get more detailed feedback about how they think they would use each product, why they would find it beneficial. Do they want a desktop? Do they want a laptop? That includes printers. That includes, right now, making the decision about, do all classrooms have a printer? Is there a larger printer that's just going to print color when needed? Scanners, we just had an audit done of all the smart boards and to identify how old they are, and some of them are very old. We've been really trying to make do. The Edutech staff has really been trying to kind of junkyard pull pieces from old smart boards and make the other ones work. So we've been kind of putting a lot of Band-Aids on, but we're going to need to replace some and really identifying where those replacements should go and looking at the smart panel and also trying to find the most affordable. So this is probably $1,000 cheaper than the panel that some of our teachers have. So again, that's why I'm demoing it to see, what are the differences and can we get just as much out of it without spending so much money. Even just moving a smart board costs about $600-700 for installation. So taking all that into consideration.
Has there been any discussion on like 3D printing when you talk about printers?
We have them.
Yeah, we have them in the high school and middle school.
For the elementary schools?
I will check. I know the last round of funding through the Education Foundation, we're gearing up for elementary and then all of the software that comes with it. It's actually part of our multi-year plan of Project Lead the Way Continuum, starting in elementary school.
Yeah, they're all excited. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have,
Are you
right, Dr.
Margaret's,
Butler.
Are you casting that too?
I'll cast it. We can compare.
You are the
which one's
caster.
better.
So this is our instructional program overview. We talked about current and expected staffing. We'll review some of the known retirements and resignations that the board has approved, and I'll give you some class size scenarios.
Okay, so what are we doing here? I don't want to break anything. Okay, so let's start off with some goals for 1920. Academic excellence. So we're looking to maintain existing programs and services for all students K-12. We are always looking, all year long really, in conversations with our teachers, with some students, depending on the level, with the consultants that come in to work with us, are exploring, continuing to enhance learning opportunities that we provide for kids, both during the school day and after the school day. And I think the past couple of years, we've actually made a nice dent in the after the school day piece for us. Developing,
Just presenting in a larger format. for you.
Developing the K-5 social and emotional learning program and a 612 executive functioning model that will address behavioral components to the response to intervention. So those of us who work with that pyramid, if you will, there's one side of the pyramid where we focus on academic needs, kids who may be struggling with reading or math or content at 612, but certainly there's another piece that is behavioral. So we have probably the past couple of years worked on SEL at the 612 level. It's time to get down to elementary. This year, and Lisa and I, and how many people? 5 people on the committee? A nice representation across the elementary schools have been working with our regional partners at BOCES, all of whom are trying to develop a K-5 response to this. So that's been a great opportunity for us. We think we're ready to go with a piece that we will introduce to staff in May at the early release day, do some follow-up training over the summer at our Leadership Institute, and then actually start bringing it into classrooms in the fall. Executive functioning has actually always been a personal issue for me because I see people struggling even as adults with some of those executive functioning skills, the ability to plan for a project to come to completion on time, the ability to do my homework, pack my homework in the backpack, and hand it into the teacher in the morning. I have one of those at home. So, there you go. We sent a couple of teachers to some BOCES training earlier last year, and it went they were wowed by what they learned, came back and said, we must do in-service work on this. I will tell you that the internal subscription to that in-service, we had to turn people away. That's how many teachers wanted to attend. And we will repeat it, but it gave birth to this conversation. Lots of my work this year with the reading teachers and meeting monthly to go over their caseloads, I heard a lot of, it's not necessarily reading, here are some things I'm worried about. And so I met with Lisa and I said, we have to drill down to this now because we have kids leaving the room to get assistance in areas when we know that the root cause of the problem is not what we're addressing in those sessions. So we'll start with 612, which will give K-5 a little chance to settle with some of the social emotional pieces, but we have every intention of bringing it down to elementary as we move forward. And then reviewing and updating board policies in the curriculum and instruction areas to make sure that they're current. We've had a couple of interesting conversations this year with staff and administrators where we said we really need to go back and revisit this and bring it up to modern day. Professional learning and support, examining teacher leadership in our buildings. And we have, I personally rely a lot on teacher leaders, even if they are in informal roles right now. We do have an educational leadership model, K-12. We'd love to tweak that model, expand that model. We're looking at jumping onto the tech coaches and trying to bring some coaching in literacy and math to elementary and instructional coaching to 612. That is an important add-on as we look to sustain the professional development that we're doing. Every good consultant that we hire knows that their job is to work themselves out of a job. But as they leave us, as much as we love them, we hate to see them go, but we have to be able to continue their work. And the best way to do that, good school districts know that you train local people to take on that coaching role so that conversation never ends. And then we have, obviously, as Laura does with the tech people, we continue to train and support the people who step into those coaching roles. Developing a professional learning plan, the new requirement for 1920 will ask the district to identify professional learning opportunities for their administrators and their teaching assistants, along with the current role of identifying professional learning for teachers. So we look forward to that. We've already started conversations with the administrative team, and we've spent a lot of time, the three of us this year, working to provide professional learning opportunities for our teaching assistants. And then, of course, fiscal responsibility as we goal set. We try to affect personnel reductions through attrition or repositioning people. Someone might take on a slightly different role. Maximizing staffing through scheduling, especially where we have shared staff across schools, largely an issue at elementary. So looking at our schedule so we're not having people travel during the day, which causes us to have a loss of instructional time. The 6-day schedule has benefited us in being able to assign people for days, maybe 2 days at BD, 2 days at Frank G. So it definitely has helped us in that area. Considering any long-term implications. So, you know, it all work, but especially in schools, you have to plan out, 3 years out, 5 years out. Who do we want to be? If we dream this up, what could it look like? So that we can begin to think about materials and the right staffing in those places. So that's a consideration for us. We've done some nice dreaming, especially I think around the art and design programs. About what this could look like as we continue to upload and get ready for that. And then again, examining class sizes and course offerings to make sure that we're efficient, that we're meeting the needs of the kids, that we have the right teachers in the right places. So all of that is behind some of this. So the funding sources for curriculum, instruction, assessment, and professional development. A large part of the funding for the department comes through the title grants. So there are several grant opportunities that come to us through the federal government. Title I addresses students who are at risk. Those are the kids who are going to AIS reading, AIS math, and also social and emotional reasons as well. Kids who have attendance issues would fall under that category. So Some staff member is assigned to working with the student, perhaps working extended with the family. So that grant you can see is being reduced. And the question marks are there because we actually don't learn our allocations until about June 30, July 1st. So it's very hard to plan from one year to the next because, as you can see on the top line, we went from 152,000 in 17-18 to 99,000 in 18-19, and that was a little bit of a oops. So we have to constantly wait and then see how we're going to apportion the activities we want to participate in. Title II is a grant whose funds are dedicated to professional development. A lot of our consultant fees come out of that title. Title III is dedicated to students who are second language learners. So all of the funding that comes to us through that goes to our ENL program, teacher PD, student materials, student experiences, etc. Title IV is a new grant made available this year. Districts received a very small amount of money this year. We're not quite sure what that will look like or how, if it's apply for it or if it's just given to you. And it's basically used to extend learning. So it can be used for, we actually bought a software package through it that allows kids to adjust, it self-adjusts for kids' ability level. But you can use it for tech. You can use it for building your health program, interesting targets. And then extended learning, whether it's an enrichment piece, which is how we viewed the purchase of Dreambox this year. And then the last piece there is New York State textbook funding, which is per pupil and depends on enrollment, so you can see a very slight fluctuation in monies there. And then the bottom lines are district funding that comes out of our budget. There's no increase there. I think we've actually done a pretty good job. Have I, Enrique, staying in line?
Oh, wow. I wasn't
and trying to tighten that up. And really just, Jane, who's my administrative assistant, and I have worked very hard with Enrique's staff to figure out the BOCES bills and make sure that everything is apportioned appropriately and charged to the appropriate codes. So I think every year we seem to get a little tighter on that and therefore getting more for our kids out of those monies.
Now we need to teach children.
Next slide. And again, I apologize if that's so tiny, but it's really a list of some of the things that we've done with those different grants. Carol?
Question. I know that children in our district that are in private schools are also entitled to textbooks that we fund. Are those numbers in the numbers on the slide
No.
as well? Or are those just our internal kids?
There's another account code called Private and Parochial Textbooks.
Okay.
We funded through them.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting account, to say the least.
We do, however, with students, Hendrick Hudson students that are in other schools, money is a portion. So for argument's sake, we have some students who are down at St. Augustine's. We met with the principal earlier in the year. We looked at the grant together. And students of ours that are at risk there, they get their proportional amount of money follows them wherever they go. So that absolutely happens, in addition to the textbook piece. So again, we do tremendous things with after-school work, summer work with kids, lots of material purchases, lots of professional development for the staff that delivers those programs. I think we've been pretty happy with how much we've been able to offer because of that money. The caveat is that money is not always guaranteed from one year to the next, so you do have to be cautious about what you're putting forward. Okay.
So this is just an overview of what our student enrollment has been and is at this point. We are still in the process of tabulating our income in kindergarten, so that's going to affect what our total is for 2019. We've declined slightly, but stayed sort of steady. And this does include students enrolled in all 5 schools, private schools, and parochial schools, and out of district schools as of October 1st of each year. So if we look at our elementary enrollment, you will see the top, there's some blanks under K for 1920, because like I said, we're still looking for what those numbers are going to be a final. This was as of yesterday, these are the numbers.
And as you guys know, we have, we have a targeted enrollment period. We have students moving into the district late into the summer. Some families come and register their kids after they see the bus drive by a couple times, and we've had some real tough decisions to make around staffing with regards to kindergarten enrollment, because we have pockets of kids that come in as late as October and November.
So it looks like there's been, over the past 8 or 9 years, a 10% decrease in enrollment. Do we know why that's happening? Is it that people are moving in, the kids go to school and they don't move out?
Yeah, well,
Or is it?
yeah, so a number of years ago in 2016, we had a demographic study, and the demographic study suggested that we're going to be experiencing decreasing enrollment like many other suburban Westchester districts, with the exception of, I think, Ossining is really the only one growing. And it's what the demographer calls aging in place. Kids graduate, it's affordable to stay here, and so the homes aren't flipping to new families. That's for a number of reasons. One is we are the most affordable, from a school tax standpoint, the most affordable suburban Westchester district. So there is not necessarily the incentive for folks to move out as soon as their kid graduates. If you talk to my colleague or Enrique's colleague in Pleasantville or Chappaqua or other down county districts, those homes usually go for sale in the summer going into 12th grade for their youngest. And if they flip and sell their house quickly, they're looking for an apartment to stay in for the rest of the year so they can graduate, or some special dispensation from the school district to finish, even though they may not be a resident. So it's usually about affordability, and we're very affordable. Now, the housing forecast in the last 26 months has been the hottest it's been in this district in 10 years. So we may see an uptick, but we have no way to forecast that. We had talked about a demographic study over the last couple of years, but with all of the unknowns and variables around Indian Point, to plan on bad data gives you bad plans. So.
Isn't there also an overall decrease in birth rates? There was like a little uptick and then a downslope. And I saw something the other day also that New York State has the highest number of people. Yes, people leaving.
Seniors.
Yep. Is it seniors?
No, it's
No,
not.
I think
They're all-
it's
Seniors and young, both of them,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
tax issues now.
Right.
Well, a lot of people are going to Florida, and now they're actually tracing a lot of people to make sure they're actually doing that.
This is just.
Well, residency, they're checking on residency,
Right.
correct? Yeah.
And so this is an overview of our elementary staffing as of March 11th, which was 2 days ago. And oddly enough, on that date, we hit 1,000 students. Sometimes it goes down by 1 or 2, it goes up by 1 or 2, but that day we hit 1,000. So you can see the breakdown of how we have teachers assigned and all of the related services as well, including music teachers, E&L, related services, E&L. When we go to middle school, this gives us sort of a middle ground where we are right now, as we have our students incoming and outgoing. Unless anybody moves into the district, that those numbers would change a little bit.
The slide previous, I caught Frank G. and BV have the same amount of reading teachers. Is that based on test scores and need, or
Yes.
is it?
Yes, so the reading teachers are one of a group of people hired that are K-12 employees, and they follow the need of the students. So if next year, for argument's sake, Blue Mountain had more children than they could currently service with their reading staff, then we would look at which of the elementaries could possibly move up. Maybe we're sending a lot of 5th grade students. So maybe one of the reading teachers at Frank G would go over, or BV. They understand that they're following the numbers. So
Now that wasn't all of that easy of a task.
No.
Because when we committed to multiple measures and multiple diagnostics of literacy skills and abilities, Margaret would quarterly, 3 times a year, look at that data with the reading teachers and say, based on that diagnostic and information, real-time information within a week or two from the assessment to the analysis, we had to move some people. And I remember a number of conversations saying, well, wait a minute, I teach at this school. Yeah, but the need is somewhere else. So that started to create the culture of much like PPS, where they respond to the need, that they become part of the intervention team as opposed to just a direct instruction, or every elementary school gets 2 reading teachers regardless of need.
Well, I think that would be the question, because you initially look and FGL has so many more students than BV, and yet they both have the same number of reading teachers. And I think to a lot of people looking at these numbers, they may not understand, what causes the amount to be equal.
And actually, that's going to be a problem in New York State, because the state controller now is auditing schools and saying, and changing the way we're going to account by buildings more than district-wide. We usually do it by building. If you look at our account codes, I would say 90% are for buildings, but not other districts. And then when the state auditors audit you and see something like that without understanding that PV needs more reading because it's more Hispanic population, they would say, oh, no, cut a teacher there, a reading teacher there, and put it in front. They will tell you.
Disproportionate staffing.
Yeah.
Looking at a spreadsheet.
Yes, that is a
I
very
think
common.
that's why, without an explanation, I would think that somebody just looking at that would have a concern.
Yep.
Well, and I would take it to the other extreme, Barbara, that it's okay if I'm a reading teacher that my kids have tested out of the intervention. Now I can go give more service to more students before they have to qualify. This is not a work your way out of a job, it's try to do some preventative maintenance, not just working with students after we have an identified need.
I also look at these numbers, and it looks like the average is about 20 kids to a teacher.
19.
That
Well,
depends though.
1,000 to 50, right? So about 20 kids to a teacher, but then...
Not in every school.
Not in every school,
Right.
right? So it looks like VB is a little lower than that, and Furnace Woods, but FGL seems to have the bulk of, a lot more kids to the
It
teacher.
actually depends on the grade. So if
Okay.
you looked at the schools, and was that the slide before, or was that the one we use internally? You can see that in Frank G and in BV, there are some grades that balloon, so to speak, so they do have higher numbers. So I can tell you there's probably a grade or 2 at BV where they have more kids. They had the biggest kindergartens this year.
Yes.
Remember, we talked about splitting or not, and we chose not to. So they had a very large kindergarten compared to Furnace Woods that had a very small kindergarten. So there's always that struggle between how do you balance that? How do you make it, fair isn't always equal? How do you look at the 3 schools and then from grade to grade make that happen?
It also depends on where the ICT classes go to.
Absolutely.
That's the other thing.
So do we move teachers between schools if there is a...
Yeah, if we needed to. So if one school was going to cut a section and there was no place for that teacher to go, but there was an opening, an increase at BB, then somebody would be moving over there.
Okay.
I mean, sometimes they move because they want to experience a different grade level, but again, you go where the need is. Our ENL teachers work the same way. They go where the need is. I'm going to move some people next year because the need is shifted to a different building. And there also, Barbara, that's a very deceiving number because ENL teachers work with a minute requirement for each proficiency level. So you could look at an ENL teacher and say, but she only has 10 kids. Those 10 kids are really 20 kids.
Right.
Because there are 2 different requirements they have to meet for each student. So you do have to understand what's behind the numbers, otherwise you can look at it and say, well, we're overstaffed.
No, I definitely understand.
Yeah, I know you do.
I definitely, for teaching, I know why this occurs, but I know I'm always asked by a lot of people,
Right.
why does, Frank G not have the same amount, why do they have the same amount as BV? And they have a much larger population at Frank G. And sometimes when you just put numbers and you don't have the explanation, it's like you said, you look at the number of students and Frank G is so much bigger, but they actually have more teachers as a result. You look at the number of teachers at Furnace Woods or at BV, and overall, there are more teachers at Frank G. But just looking at it, it looks completely out of balance.
Well, the ratio is higher
Absolutely.
at that school, so it seems like
Yeah.
there's more burden on the teachers.
But not in every
based on-
grade, that's
Right.
the whole thing.
Not based on the diagnostic
Right.
assessment.
Right.
That's, it's not a ratio, it's the evaluation of each student.
Yes, I can assure you that 3 times a year,
And that's what I was just
I
gonna
sit with the
say.
building
Right.
principals and we look at their benchmark results, and I think we're in the swing of things with one another now, so we kind of have a good picture. We understand, we have a well-developed sense of the criteria that creates the profile for a kid who needs help. And that's important, otherwise a lot of kids are pushed to it that may not necessarily need it. So we were very clear about that. We're in our 4th year now of using those profiles, and we tweak them as we need to. So, again, that's not in concrete either. I create a profile, but then, and I can see who the cut is of students, but I always sit down with the principal and say, and who's not here that is keeping you up at night? And let's talk about what that means. So kids get added, kids get accessed in the middle of the year. It's benchmark time, we just finished. So lots of my reading teachers are celebrating kids who don't need reading anymore. I got rid of 3 kids, yay for me. That's exciting news for everybody. So again, it's sometimes hard because the numbers really don't tell the whole story. Yeah.
And that's the goal of a good reading program,
Yeah.
is actually to have students test out of it, That's your biggest accomplishment.
And avoid any kind of classification, if you're being proactive at those younger ages, you're gonna find that we have a lower classification rate.
Yeah.
And just real quick, Laura, if you could go back one slide. This staffing pattern with regards to elementary is a function of who lives where and when. This is a function of kids in neighborhoods. So we have had years where one school in kindergarten had 13 kids in the classroom and another had 23 because of the enrollment in that school at that particular time. So you'll see trends that appear to be high in some schools or low in others, and that's how many kids live there at a particular time.
BV was an anomaly this year. Usually BV, the classes are very small, so that's, because we've kept the caps very low purposely, so K1 and 2, we could really remediate all of the problems before, they become bigger and bigger and bigger and we have the grades.
Well, and we had an issue. I mean, part of the frustration of New York State school district budgeting process, not us, but the state demand, is we're forecasting staffing in March. The public will hopefully approve it in May. And in October, this could be completely different. And we had a situation
Oh my goodness.
a year or two ago. We had just enough kids move into a particular neighborhood elementary school in particular grade levels that created a $400,000 increase in our budget for staff. That was not known in March.
Right.
So you roll the dice a little bit and forecast, and either hope they don't come, so our numbers are right, or forecast that they do and then hope they come. Otherwise, we've over budgeted. That was cool.
It's dropping so much in 2021 with this budget.
And if then you go back into the staff and connected to that. So right now, this year, we're told 520 students in the building with 30 classroom teachers, and then in addition to all of the other related services. high school.
It's really predicted to drop off.
Yeah.
all the grades.
We'll be able to save some money.
But those sort of
Always the
trends
pragmatist.
in the high school are situations we are
We
looking
will
at
find ways
that
to
may
spend it, I'm sure.
have been untouchable. You heard Lisa at her presentation last time. We have 5 counselors at the high school. We have a model at the high school that deals with incoming 9th graders differently, and then they go on to a different counselor, 10 through 12. We are going to have to look at that huge gap in enrollment and look at it around our mandated courses we have to offer, our non-mandated courses, and our related services.
Of course, this is just a projection, so again, if we get your families moving into the
Right.
area, that might change in a year.
So this is always big news every year. Some of our, our long-standing teachers have chosen to retire. So we have these confirmed retirements: technology at the middle school, high school art teacher. We have 2 elementary school teachers, speech and language teachers retiring, high school social studies teacher, high school special education teacher, our 6th grade English teacher, and middle school science teacher.
Middle school special.
Middle school special ed.
There's an additional one?
No, that one was a while ago.
No, but that it's not there.
It's not there, no.
Oh,
The 2 that left off.
hold on.
And then with all of that, at this point, this is where we're anticipating adding anybody new to this, and that would be in the AIS
So
math and
this
E&L.
is, right, this is on the general education side of things. I think Lisa presented some of her needs when she did her budget a few weeks back. So in the general ed side, new staffing is, we hope for a 1.5 K-5 AIS math. We started the AIS math program this year with a 1.0. She is amazing and shared across 3 buildings, so she dances her way through the week. And we're hoping to give her some colleagues so that we can service more students on a day-to-day basis at each of the schools. And then a 0.5 K-12 ENL teacher. And again, I have a 0.5 part-time right now who is doing some work for us at Blue Mountain. Not sure that that's where the need will be, but the 0.5 will be used somewhere. So it's just a shifting rotation based on where kids are going and kids that are coming in right now. And then, of course, we also have to wait and see when the nicest lot is given in the spring. Some of our kids will exit second language services. They are still entitled to 2 years of support, although that support looks very different, as you might imagine, than day-to-day instruction. So that's what we're thinking would work for us next year. And again, as we mentioned earlier, we're looking to bring executive functioning on board, starting at the secondary level, introducing the K-5 SEL program. We are looking to expand Project Lead the Way. There are some courses. The middle school is currently doing something, and there are other opportunities, so we'll talk with the Blue Mountain staff to see how that best would fit with the current staffing folks that they have, and also the opportunities in terms of the schedule for our kids at middle school. And then there is a program at K-5 that we're kind of keeping an eye on. We have some neighbors in the region that are exploring that, and they're giving us some feedback. I have gone with Blair to do some visits to schools that are already using the program. And then the conversation at 612 around the expansion of the digital arts pathway. Paul Giacchini and Logan Krause have started a really nice experience at the middle school and are working with the high school teachers to push that work up and create a continuation for the kids that are so excited about what's happening in their middle school experience. So, and it's part of the new standards. So.
questions, comments? I know we sort of did them as we went along.
Have there been any discussions about bringing the executive functioning work down to the elementary
We
and
have
middle?
every intention of doing that, but because we're introducing them this in 1920 to the SEL piece, we thought we might end up needing to wait till the next year. But we have every intention of getting them as early as we
Yeah,
can to
because
build
that's how
those
it's going to
habits.
work the best.
Absolutely.
Right. Thank you.
Do we have an idea as to with these confirmed retirements about replacing or not? Or not
We're
yet?
discussing that right now with the admins and looking at, again, you can see the shifting enrollment from one grade to the next. So, how does that impact 6th grade to 7th grade, 4th grade to 5th grade? So right now, we're talking with everybody at each building to think about what does this look like as the kids move.
And we have to evaluate that against what you saw some of the class size trends. So depending on where the needs are, I know, special ed is always very difficult to forecast because Lisa and her team are in annual review season and IEPs change and needs change and programs change. So we have advertised for the jobs on an anticipated basis so we can create a candidate pool and at least start building a bench of potential candidates. And once we have more concrete information, we'll know whether we need to replace people full-time, part-time, whether there are other interested staff within the district. So when we identify these vacancies, someone from the high school may want to, try it at the middle school. They meet with Lisa or whoever, if it's a special ed job, and they have an interview process to see if it's a good fit. So that process is begun and wraps up, I think, no sooner than April 15th. All right, so we heard from Margaret and we heard from Laura. We have not heard from Lisa. So usually during our superintendent's report, all three give an update, but they had Laura and Margaret had a lot to share, so I'll pass the baton to Lisa to give some updates on PPS.
So an exciting thing for us this month, Lindsay Jackman-Tony, who is a teacher in one of our ABC classes here at Friend G, has been nominated for the Westchester Foundation of Autism as an exceptional teacher. So she'll be honored at the end of March at the gala. It's this huge gala, so that'll, Ellen and I are planning on attending. I may make it, I don't know if Ellen will do it, maybe a wheelchair walker or something. We have actually started doing our preschool visits. So we're looking at the incoming kindergartners, kind of assessing where we're going to be. We know that our ICT class for kindergarten next year will be at BB. So that really, sometimes parents will send, sometimes they won't. So that'll impact our numbers, just like we don't know numbers until we get to those CSK meetings. We are looking at the SMARTS curriculum. So if you go to SMARTS, Executive Functioning Curriculum, you can actually see the curriculum that we're looking at. Margaret and I have really started talking to some teachers. At least 9th grade, we have an idea for 9th grade, and we really want to get stuff into the middle school because as we know, it's really important to start it earlier, but we can't give those elementary teachers too much at a time.
Yep.
I'll be doing the ICT review. We'll be starting next Monday. No, I'm sorry, 2 weeks on the 25th in the middle school. So Mary Ellen Herzog will be coming in and doing a middle school audit. Then she'll go to the high school, then all 3 elementaries. And lastly, I'll start my displaced family audit. So I oversee the homeless, so we have really dramatically decreased our homeless students here. But we will do another audit and see how many students are now permanently housed, which is important. When we started the school year, I think we had 3, I think we're up to 6. And I think of the 3, 2 will no longer be homeless because they're switching. As part of the Make an Eventual law is if you're in like a 6th or an 8th going to 9th, they're allowed to stay in that district even if they're permanently housed. So we have 2 students doing that, so they understand they have to go to their home where they're housed now. And we have 3 students that I believe will be housed up in Arlington. So we're transporting them from Arlington every day. It's actually a little bit further than Arlington, where they have a school right there. So I've been working with the state to say, okay, how do I now say you're living there? It's been a year. So there's been a lot of conversation there, and we're really trying to make sure the kids are not traveling an hour and a half to school every day. That's a big problem. So. That's all I have.
Thank you very much, everybody. Next, we have public comments. Did anybody sign up, Roseanne?
No.
Okay. Then we can move on to our first reading of policy number 5225, student personal expression.
Okay, so this is a first reading for this policy. Two of us are on the policy committee, so we've seen this already. And this policy was really kind of spurred on by the increase in popularity of doing protests and marches and things for students as a way to express their opinions on things going on in politics and in the community. And we felt we needed a policy to address concerns and procedures for those events. So this would be policy number 5225. The Board of Education recognizes the importance and value of student personal
Move for
expression.
further reading.
Now, and since this is a first reading, we wanted to present this pretty early. We're not passing this tonight. We wanted to give ample time for the community to comment on it as well if they have concerns or questions or any input as far as the policy goes.
So as Carol said, this is a recommended policy by NISBA, our state association, and I'll read you their recommendation. Changes to this policy or adopting this policy allows districts to respond to student walkouts and demonstrations. Additionally, this brings this policy into better alignment with Dignity for All Students Act, and this was subject to a April 2018 workshop on student free speech. And this is, as Carol said, in response to a spike in student protests, as well as making sure districts have proper policies in place to deal with those.
Okay, thank you, policy committee.
I had a question. I'm still kind of not sure I'm understanding that last sentence of that distribution of materials paragraph, where it says unless such student expression takes place.
Within the confines of school-sponsored
Yeah, that's
activities.
No, it was a.
So the reason is that this policy only pertains to activity that's not school-sponsored. We have a different policy to cover school-sponsored activities.
So what would be a non-school sponsored activity that we covered? I mean, I'm just trying.
Like a walkout
Okay.
or,
What happened in the high
happened
Yeah, it's
school?
still happening during the school day, though.
but it's
so
not school-sponsored.
Okay.
The students decide on their own that they're going to walk out of class in protest for whatever, or that they're going to hold a rally outside of the school, but there's no school organization that's sponsoring that event.
Endorsed by the school or the district.
Thank you.
Okay. We have committee reports.
We did a policy committee, and you're seeing the results of that here. So I don't have a lot to report at this point. I guess we have some work ahead of us because we need to review some of the educational policies, so that's good. We'll put that on our docket. Just one or two.
Yeah, and a couple other PPS-related ones. Lisa has her committee and her nurses looking at one, and she's working with our corporate counsel to review other related policies. So we'll have a batch of those too.
And you had finance committee as well.
Finance committee, we discussed tonight as well.
I went to the legislative forum that was held through Westchester Putnam School Board Association on the 28th of February. We had really great representation from all of our legislative people and Senate people, and Andrew Stewart Cousins was even there and spoke to us as well. The good news is we've got them behind us, really pushing for public school aid. We'll see what happens. As Joe mentioned, there was they came out with their one house budget. Some of those things, they took away some of the things that the governor had recommended. They added some things that NISBA really wanted us to have inside of there. We'll see what happens. But there are people out there looking out for public education, which is good to know. And also just now through April 1st, we need to be really supportive and aware of what's happening with the budget, because we need to put together some kind of like resolution or letters to our politicians to really express how we're, as a district, see the issues, and so kind of be aware. I missed the Furnacewood School PTA meeting, unfortunately, but they had a great science expo, as Joe mentioned, and their graduation. BV PTA meeting was March 4th. Their expo is coming up on the 21st, and they've got a book fair. My special dance is coming up. They've discussed a lot of their fundraisers to do and things that they want to have happen. And let's see, they also discussed the lunch policy at BV for charging. That came up as well. They're thinking of doing a color splash run, which would be really fun to raise funds for BV. Yeah, so that was the committee.
Okay, thank you very much. And we both have safety committee tomorrow, which I hope I will be able to make if my little one goes through its surgery on time. Anyway, new board business, I would just like to say that we have 3 seats open for the board. We do have people running again. Lisa Anderson, Carol Abraham, and Bill Riccio will be running again. Anybody who is thinking about running, please know that your petitions have to be submitted by, I believe it's April 22nd?
Yes.
Okay. And I would encourage all of you to please go and download the information from the New York School Board Association. It's very interesting to read, right, what prospective school board members should know. And there's also a piece on the code of ethics that you have to follow to be a school board member. And I think it's important for everybody to read and understand exactly what you're signing yourself up for, although nobody can even explain the amount of time and effort until you actually join the board. Anyway, you can find it on NYSBA.org. We work very closely with NYSBA. We have had training programs with them. Carol and I have spoken to other boards on behalf of NYSBA, and we have also attended workshops from NYSBA. So it's a very good organization, and I would encourage everybody who's interested to really look at this.
They also have this new website experience called the School Board Experience, so they have videos up and they try to make it more interactive on what school board service is like. And I'm sure anybody on the school board would be happy to talk to prospective school board members as well about their experiences and what to expect.
Okay, that being said, does anybody else have anything that they'd like to discuss?
Personally?
I'd like to just bring up one last thing. The Play for Life, which is the Hen Hud Cancer Fundraiser, is happening April 26th. It'll be from 5 p.m. to midnight, with a luminary ceremony at 8:30 at the high school track and field. And you'll be seeing more publicity for that in the upcoming days, but it's a really great event. The kids that are organizing it, Emily Guida and Maureen Parks, have put a lot of effort into it. And it's done well in the past. The funds will be donated to Sue's Crew, again, which is that not-for-profit foundation that helps people locally with.
Excellent.
Is this instead of the Stay Wake-a-thon that they used to do?
Yes. Yeah, this is
the
the
second.
So it's like it's
We're only staying up till midnight.
All right, so that's
Yeah, only till midnight. Last year we had the dance marathon.
Yes.
Before that was Relay for Life. Before that it was Stay Wake-a-thon. So it's the cancer fundraiser.
Do you still need volunteers, or are you all set as far
We
as
love
that goes?
volunteers. We love people to form teams to help raise funds, and lots of participation.
Good.
They'll be doing sports, like soccer and football. They'll be competing against each other in the sports. They'll also be playing games like cornhole and relays, and there'll be just lots of fun, food and music. It should be a good night.
Good. Very
For a
good.
wonderful cost.
Okay. That being said, I know we are done here, and can I please have a motion to adjourn our meeting?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Bye.
Thank you.